You're at your old trusty boat. You call mighty sparrow. I'm in the city of Mardi Gras.
Welcome to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast. I'm your host, Jerome Rand, and this is where we sit down with everyday people who do extraordinary things.
Hello, everybody. This is Jerome. Welcome to the show. It has been quite a few days since I put out a podcast. I actually recorded this one, this conversation with Jade, back on Thursday of last week, but was sort of coming down with a little something, basically the flu or whatever, and my sickness cycle has always been about once every 5 years to get hit hard, and that's exactly what happened. And so, essentially, right after finished this podcast, I went to bed and have been shivering myself back to health, and now it is Monday tomorrow, back into work. It's been a long weekend, but I am feeling a bit better, and got to have the game face on because we have another big week of hard charging, pulling all these boats out of the water as the temperature gets really cold and the rains start coming more often. So lots of work to do now that I wasn't able to get much done at all this weekend, and that sort of compiles things. I think sometimes I just run myself so ragged trying to do so many things that the body eventually says, you know what, it's time for you to take a break, and I don't care what you say about it. So, in any event, Jade and Ben sailed in here over a month ago, and they pulled their mast out, completely refinished, redid the whole thing. It's beautiful. I've been out on their boat. It's absolutely stunning. All this just custom interior, everything, and really just the nicest people. But come to find out, they've done some serious sailing, and even more so, they met in the South Pacific in this really interesting, really romantic way and stuff. And Jade and I just sit down and we just sort of bounce all over the place. But hopefully, you guys enjoy the podcast. And as per usual, if you want to support the show, you can click the description in the link and head over to Patreon. And big thanks to all the people who already do that. And then if you just want to reach out to the show with an email, head over to sailingintooblivion.com, click the podcast button, and you can email me directly. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Jade. Jade, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
What do you think of the old Mighty Sparrow?
I think she's great. She's more spacious than I would have thought.
Would you be able to be on here with two people?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
I find it a little difficult.
Well, I mean, you don't have the aft.
Oh, like
which is
the
what I'm
estate
a little
room,
bit used
so to
to.
speak? Yeah.
Yes. Not even a quarter berth.
No, I have seen there was
But
one.
you do have that separation there in the V berth of the small other berth.
Well, and there was, I actually saw on a YouTube channel recently, they had partitioned this off so there was a door here and everything forward was considered the captain's quarters. And so the head didn't have a door on it. It was situated differently, and there was it was sort of like that was a whole big room in there. West sailors are strange folk. We're
Yeah.
sort of worshipers of these boats, and we like to twing and tune and do all these weird customizations and
Well, yeah.
stuff.
I don't know for how long though. I'd have to think about it. But
Yeah, I mean, I've had people on board for 2 passages that were about 2 weeks, and that was fine because it's a passage and all that. But actually cruising around and trying to live the sort of cruiser lifestyle, I've only done that for like a long weekend with another person, and it's a little hard.
yeah, I could see that.
But who knows? Can you give us a little description of your vessel that you're on? Nothing too crazy, but it is a beautiful, beautiful boat.
Thank you. It's a Navy 44, so it's a 40-foot monohull, cutter rigged, optionally. What else do you want to know?
Is it It's fiberglass, isn't it,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
steel?
Yep.
Okay, it's
Mhm.
fiberglass.
Yep. It's
Um,
88 from 1988.
1988,
Mhm.
and it's a beast. It's beautiful. You guys have done a ton of work on it.
We have, yeah. Yeah.
Well, and it originally was built as like a training vessel
Mhm.
for.
For the US Naval Academy down in Annapolis.
And how did you guys find it?
Just online.
Just random?
Yeah.
Yacht
Mhm.
World or whatever it is?
I don't even know. Ben found it.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was it like 100% ready to go at that point, or
We
did it
spent
need a
about
lot?
6 months full time in the boatyard, getting it ready to just go in the water, which mainly we focus on the exterior.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it could have gone in fine and sailed it down to Florida or wherever.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Pretty much ready.
Yeah. No, it's a strong hull, and that's why we bought her.
Well, and now it's got a very strong mast.
It does.
That was pretty exciting. For the listeners, this morning we put the brand new, or I shouldn't say the brand new, but the mast that you guys have been working on for weeks now, which looks brand new, by the way.
Uh-huh.
It was actually pretty nerve-wracking for me because I really wanted to make sure we didn't screw up in any way, shape, or form.
Well, it happens, you know.
It does happen, but we
Yeah.
didn't want it to happen with that because, when you have that brand spanking new paint
It's almost
job.
better if it just gets a little bit damaged straight away, so you can be like, oh, okay.
Right, right. No, I've always liked that sort of way because then, you can just forget about it. It's not pristine and you don't have to worry. But it seems like we did a pretty good job today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
it was nice
great.
having all the extra little towels and all the pieces of foam, everything to support it all out.
Yeah, well, it was instigated by you to ensure that, everything went smoothly. So
Well, and I made sure that I gave the guys a good talking to, a little serious discussion. Normally
how'd
we're
they
all
take that?
they gave me a bunch of guff,
Yep,
but I
yep.
think they understood. There was a tone and a look in my eye of like, all right, guys, no messing around. Like, partly for me, it was because you could see how much you guys had worked on that and put time into it.
But yeah, I mean, there's that, but then it's just boats, like, a month on a mast, really.
Yeah, but it's going to be perfect for the next. I mean, Ben
Yeah.
said it best. He was like, "Yeah, you do this now,
I
and
mean,
then for 10
that
years."
is the last project, like, no, thought of, known project. We've had the boat for 5 years now, so
Mhm.
it's like, okay, this is the last thing. It's always been on the list, and so we're doing it, and we're
The
doing
last
it.
major one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a boat.
Yeah.
There's always going to be more.
Oh, absolutely, but that we've known about and, saved for and all that.
Well, and is it all tuned up and everything, or are they coming to tune it?
I mean, Ben tuned it to where he thinks, but I think we might have Jade come out and we'll go for sale on Tuesday, I think.
Oh, okay, okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, because your rigging is different than Sparrow in that it's rod rigging, so it's like these stainless steel rods.
Yeah.
Which are a little bit different. I don't have much experience on those, but I assume it's got to be pretty much the same. Tension
Yeah.
it up just right, and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
The only thing I've always heard about, though, with stainless or with the rod is that it's a little harder to anticipate breakages.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
with,
that's a big reason why we did change rigging. 'Cause we
oh,
didn't
you just,
actually
yeah.
have any history on it, which you think would be the complete opposite, being a
Oh,
US
like a naval boat.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
usually they're documented to the nines. But I don't know if we just didn't pursue it or try hard enough. We just couldn't find any information.
Well, I would think that a sailboat to like a
I mean, we
Navy
know
thing
it
would be
was like
a toy kind of
yeah. I
thing.
mean,
Like,
we understand that it was worked 250 days a year for like going, sailing hard. So
yeah, yeah.
we took that with it, and
Well, and for people sort of learning how to sail too. So it's
Yeah.
taking a real beating.
yeah.
Well, that's
Exactly.
cool. So now you guys
Yeah.
have everything all set up,
Well, we're
and
almost free. It feels good.
I know,
Yeah.
and we're in Maine.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And it's been
now,
beautiful.
well, yeah, but the winter is coming. The gales, the autumnal gales are going to be ripping off at Cape Hatteras pretty soon. So what's your game plan to get out? Because I'm trying to come up with mine, and I'm interested to hear.
exactly what you guys are thinking.
Well, from here, I think we're not too fussed. I mean, I would like to spend more time in around Buzzards Bay, but I think the priority there will just be getting a good weather window in a month's time, or whatever, or even just we haven't really started thinking about it. So,
Right.
but
But
we'll probably go down the coast, go through the canal, and leave either from Newport or New York.
so that's Cape Cod Canal,
Yeah, and that's correct, and we'll go offshore to Bermuda, then to the Caribbean.
then
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
And you've never been to Bermuda, have you?
Nope, nope.
It's
Nor the
lovely.
nor the Caribbean. So this is all new territory for us.
It's gonna be pretty fun. When I talked to Ben first, he was sort of like, and I kind of thought to myself, well, if it's never been there, it's actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
But he must have been down the Caribbean,
No,
right? No?
no. I mean, I think when he was younger, just not
Right.
sailing,
Okay.
but nope. He even, a few months ago, I'm like, let's go to New England as our, we'll get some more projects done and we'll just kind of chill out, use the boat and just kind of finish up stuff. He's kind of like, but he's pretty stoked with coming up here and just the beauty and everything in the sailing. So
Well, and he's
I'm like, I
got
think Maine is actually pretty nice.
it
Like, from
is.
here, thinking about people talking about it and seeing pictures. So
Well, I mean, and from what I understand, because I've never been able to cruise any of it, Penobscot Bay is supposed to be like where we are right here. All this area around us, the islands and
yeah,
all that, is just phenomenal for just cruising
it
around and
is.
spending the summer.
Yeah, it's great.
But you guys, did you explore any up here before you pulled in and pulled your mast?
Let me think about this. Yes.
Yeah, because I'm trying
We probably
to.
spent from like southern Maine, from Portland to coming here doing the bottom job. Was probably like 2 or 3 weeks as, just cruising
Okay,
around.
so you guys hauled out
I don't know.
and did okay, because
Yeah.
we're trying to figure it out. I'm thinking my listeners
Yeah.
must think like, but it's been a long day, so.
Yeah, so we got to Maine and we knew we had these projects, one being the mast and two being the bottom job, and so we got a hold of Knights, and well, actually what instigated it was that we hit a rock, so we're like, oh well, let's just do the bottom job
Oh,
now.
right. And just be
As
able to
opposed
check it
to a
all.
couple of weeks later or whatever. And it's
That
kind of
that
good that the two mast and the bottom job was 2 different times, just because it would have been quite a lot.
Oh, heck
Yeah.
yeah. It would have been a
Yeah.
really big, and sometimes that happens to me. I sort of fight with that on boats where you let the list of projects grow
Yeah.
too large and try and tackle them all at once, and it has to be done like one thing at a time, but we all have to bear our cross. But so, okay, I'm trying to remember. So you guys come in here, you do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people actually come up here with that same problem where they've hit some rock, because Maine is a pretty rocky sort of area. And I don't know why because it seems like with all the technology we have,
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
randomly
we were
they just
in
jump out.
we were in Seal Bay in Vinyl Haven, I think. Is
Mm.
that right? It was low tide, so we were just looking for a spot. It was at 13, like where we hit was at 13.
Oh, really?
So don't know.
What does
Just
the boat
unmarked.
draw?
7.3.
7.3.
Yeah, she's
There's your
deep.
problem right there. It's too big of a keel. It goes way too far down. I'm
That's
like
right.
5 feet, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably like 4 foot
No,
10.
she's deep, but it's good to be humbled a bit. So
Well, that actually I think helps in life in general
yeah,
to get sort of knocked down a peg or two.
yeah.
Back to reality.
Mhm.
I definitely got that when the bowsprit broke, or almost broke, because it sort of made me realize how much effort it really takes to put into a boat before you want to set off to do like a big epic trip, or even just an ocean
Yeah.
crossing,
Yeah. Well, for us, or for me personally, I think we just need to go like live the that life that we've been, working towards,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can be so like less uptight about like getting everything perfect and just freaking go damage things and just
Yeah.
enjoy, not spend money. Just
Well, and you do. I mean, you always have to expect that with the boat you're going to get that wear and tear from
Mhm.
general
Oh yeah.
use.
Mhm.
And I have always
But then you
thought,
start, we've had the boat 5 years, and then you start looking at the first projects you did.
yeah, right. Well, but I've always figured there's two ways sort of approach that issue of general wear and tear. One is that you maintain it so the boat is safe and functional. Two is to go like crazy and just always be doing every little touch up, repainting, revarnishing constantly so that your life sort of revolves around trying to keep your boat at this really high end level.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of like you're saying, you're never finished with the project, so you're
Yeah.
never enjoying what's
Yeah.
going on around you.
And
And
you might be able to tell that we're a little bit in that ballpark of getting everything nice.
yeah, well, but when you guys had me out on the boat, which thank you again, which it was wonderful. Boat looks great. I mean, absolutely great. Put me to shame. When I go on somebody's boat and it's as clean and as nice down below, I usually come back and I start cleaning my boat. It's a little hard here just because it's the boat yard and it's constantly dirty.
Yeah.
But I used to every Friday take about an hour and pressure wash and stuff up top and then clean down below.
Pressure wash. That's impressive.
Well, I have just one of those little
yeah,
electric
yeah.
ones, not really strong,
Mhm.
but it works really good for the non-skid. But it was like my little ritual and it was fun and stuff. But week after week after week, and the amount of dust and dirt that's down here, it's kind of like I just want to wait until I'm out of the yard. That
Yeah.
makes sense. I'm lazy though, so when it comes to certain things,
That's fine.
yeah. I like to go off into the weeds on this podcast. I don't know if you realize
Oh, you're fine.
that.
Like I said, I want to like point at things and stuff, but
Yeah, well,
thanks.
and always, feel free. You can ask me any questions about any of the stuff I've done. But, I have a listener who long ago emailed me about romance at sea, the idea of setting sail and finding the love of your life out on the ocean. So I see you smiling because you know what I'm already like fishing for here. But do you think you could give us just a small anecdote or story about you and Ben meeting in the far-flung tropical paradise of Tonga?
Well, what brought to mind when you were saying that is that, when you meet someone and you sail off into the sunset, well, I give Ben shit because we never like go on date, do anything like normal like that.
Right.
He's like, what? From day one, I've been taking you off into sailing into the sunsets, which is very
The
true. So it's just
ultimate
hilarious.
romance.
Yeah. But I'm giving him shit for this other thing. But no, we met in Tongatapu in Tonga, the Kingdom of Tonga. It's kind of by Fiji, Samoa, in 2013, and pretty much from then we have been living in like close quarters. We were in a quarter berth for about 3 months and
On a
just
different
kinda
boat.
on a different boat.
Yeah.
Yes. So when I met him, he was in transition from giving his friend his boat that they split.
And he had come from the east,
San Diego. Yeah. So
heading west, and you had come from
New Zealand.
New Zealand,
Yeah,
where you
just
live, where you're from.
flying. I didn't, people think, oh, you must be a sailor and whatnot, but no, I hadn't really sailed
You just
at
flew
all.
over
So
there, yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean, I would associate that with somebody on the East Coast, flying down to the Caribbean. Tonga's
Okay.
pretty close to New Zealand, isn't it?
Yeah.
Within.
3-hour flight. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't remember.
There you go. Piece
Yeah.
of cake. So let's get into some details. Okay, this is the way I picture it. All right, I won't go through all that, but let's just say, have you seen that movie Adrift?
The like 5-year-old one, 4-year-old.
I think it's like
Yeah.
4 or 5 years old. So it's the
And he
reenactment.
goes missing or goes overboard.
Yeah, he goes
Yeah.
missing, but not that part. Just
Okay.
the meet cute of
Oh,
what went
okay.
on. So
Uh-huh.
the lone sailor pulls in, on his
Bling.
the boat he made himself, and there's the cute
Wow.
little girl who's there, and she's just sort of backpacking around the world, so to speak, and they meet and they fall in love, and then they start sailing.
I mean, it was kind of like that, yeah.
It was?
Yeah.
So you
Uh-huh.
lived the dream
A
of
little bit,
Adrift
yeah.
without
For a few months.
yeah, for a few months, the honeymoon
Yeah.
stage. And you guys have been together for,
Since 13, so what's that, 9 years?
and you're married now?
Yes.
Holy
4
smokes.
years.
So, for my listeners out there, the
There's hope.
dream
Yeah.
is 100% true.
Yeah.
You just got to set sail, have that boat,
Oh, yeah. And on that note, when we hopped to this when Ben was organizing to help someone who met sail his boat from Tonga, Fiji to New Zealand, because his crew was leaving, that's where I jumped on. But Ben had another friend coming from Alaska, which is where he's from, to meet, and so potentially all four of us were going to go sailing. And
Oh.
Jacques, our friend who had the boat and went around the world, he didn't have crew and obviously needed us, but he didn't know if he would take on a fourth crew member or not. But what was funny is that Ben and I got together, and Ben's friend Jess and Jacques got together, and so we had like this 2 months of like called it like a video clip of like the ridiculousness of sailing and like music and like
Oh, I'm
just
sure.
like
Yeah.
skinny dipping, and like he had just sailed over from American Samoa, so we had like all this like booze
Oh,
and
right.
whatnot, but then we couldn't take it into Fiji. We could only take like, I don't know, 4 bottles. I don't remember what it was.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah,
we
yeah.
like had to drink it all and all that. So, it was a pretty, what I like to call them, like a rap video type of thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
a
right.
little
Well,
bit
like we gotta just party hard.
yeah.
And everybody sort of just knew, when you meet people, the beginning part of any friendship
Yeah.
or relationship, the first few months are always like,
Yeah.
yeah, this
Yeah.
is great. Before things get, a little like, oh, chews with his mouth open all the time. It's disgusting.
But sorry to say that the other couple did not last. So
Oh, they
yeah,
didn't. But you guys
best of both
did.
worlds.
And now you're on your own. I don't know. I think that's pretty cool because it's highly unusual, but it's one of those things that you'd see it in movie plots and stuff. I mean, it really is. You could like wear that as a badge. You should probably have a tattoo like we met on a tropical
Well,
island.
when people ask us how we met, we're like, oh, here we go, because it's can be quite a long story. So
Yeah. But it's a
quite
good
funny.
one
Yeah,
though. It's,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's really like we were both working the mailroom
Yeah.
at
We actually met because I was actually taking tourists swimming with humpback whales, which is amazing.
Oh, you
And
were working there.
yeah, yep.
Oh,
And
okay.
I
So
took
it
people
is just
diving.
like a dream.
Yeah, a little
My
bit.
gosh.
Ben always gives me shit because I never took him swimming with the humpbacks.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I'd be holding that one.
But he had so I'd met these girls from Australia. They were doing their 5-week doctor whatever they do for a medical school. And so I'd met them. They'd come on a tour with me, and then I met them in a cafe. I was there for a couple of months, so just a season. And they're like, "Oh, we met this Alaskan. He might take us to Hapai, another island group, which is like a 2-day, 3-day sail." And I was like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna go and have dinner with them." I was like, "Oh, can I come?" Just because I was bored.
Yeah.
And then I went, and yeah, that's how we met, on the street. And then
And what did when you walked up and saw Ben for the first time? Tell us that. I'm trying to
I
get
don't
every detail as
remember.
I can
I
because I
don't
can
remember.
only imagine Ben listening to this.
I don't remember. But after the evening, I was in a little flat in the area, and he was across in the industrial boatyard with his boat.
Mhm.
It's not very touristy for boats don't really go there, so he was just kind of having a break from
Oh, okay.
the the cruising world, I suppose.
Yeah.
And we ended up just hanging out for a couple hours, like in the gutter, with his boat right there, and my apartment, apartment
Yeah.
right there, just talking, and it was so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I've always thought that when you least expect it, and then it's just you meet people, and it's all about you just can't like stop talking and sharing and
Yeah, it was a little bit like
going
that.
back and
Yeah.
forth and back and forth, and it has nothing to do with what's going on around you. It's
Yeah.
just this connection that two
Yeah.
people all of a sudden have,
And then 5 days later, we were getting ice cream, and 2 different types of ice cream flavors. We both had the same. So there you have it. It was chocolate and mint chocolate chip.
Oh, look at you. Oh boy. Well, I think that's very, very nice. As a solo sailor, not stopping in places that limits my abilities to sort of wind up in that situation, but I can imagine it, and that's amazing. Thank you for sharing
You're
that. I know it's
welcome.
kind of a more intimate detail than a normal sailing podcast might get into, but
That's okay.
it's so cool. It really is cool. And then, so you guys like meet, and then all of a sudden, you guys are basically hopping boat to boat, and there's all this sort of stuff, but you end up going from Tonga, back to New Zealand, where you're from.
Mm-hmm.
And where were you born in New Zealand?
Lower Hutt, Wellington.
In Wellington. Oh, that's right,
Yes.
the capital.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you I lived there for a while.
Yes, Queenstown, right?
Queenstown,
Yeah,
Party
very cool.
Central.
Yeah, before we flew to Australia, Ben and I were going to get a job in Queenstown, just on the ski field or whatnot.
Oh, nice,
But
nice.
when
I
I was telling you
worked.
before about when we flew to Brisbane.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. I worked in a seafood restaurant
Okay.
as a dishwasher.
Mm.
Quickly rising up the ranks to, dishwasher plus cooking like French fries, and then also
That's just getting more for your buck from the restaurant, I think.
doing the desserts, and it was something. They were sad to see me go.
Yeah.
Let's just say
You
that.
run in like the mountains?
Not in the mountains. I was in like a friend of mine and we rented this little cottage. She worked at a restaurant as well, and I worked at a different one. And she ended up working on, they have there's like an old America's Cup boat. What's that lake right there? The big one.
Oh, I can't remember.
I can't remember either. But they have an America's
Embarrassing.
Cup boat where they chopped like a third of the mast off to make it
Okay.
safe and cruise around on that. And she was working as a crew on that. But it was the biggest drama that was going on in Queenstown at the time, and this would have been 2004 or 5.
Yep.
Was they were thinking about cutting off the 24-hour open liquor license thing, because bars down there could stay open 24 hours, and there was drama because they were like, Queenstown has got this bad reputation. They're just drunks and they're idiots.
Well, I
And
didn't know that.
they were the what?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, and they wanted to make it so all bars had to shut at like 2 a.m. And everybody's like, well, okay, so you want to release all the drunk people into the streets at the exact same time? And I don't think they ever passed it. I think they were smart, which I don't find the governments to ever really be that smart with many of their decisions. But that was a good one. They were sort of like, yeah, it does make sense. If it's always open, then people can trickle out. And because I think when it comes to like alcohol and people, the less compact groups tends to I think make it a little less likely for bad things to happen.
Yeah. Or
Maybe not so much in New Zealand.
hang-arounders or hang around potential,
Ne'er-do-wells, up to no good, steely-eyed glances
No
all over the
loitering.
place. Yeah, right. But it was fun. I must say New Zealand is probably one of the most beautiful countries on this planet.
Wow.
It is
That's
striking. You must have seen the whole thing, right? Obviously. Traveled all over it.
yeah, a little bit. Yep, I've done a bit.
What's your favorite part? What do you think is the
Oh,
most beautiful
gosh.
part of New Zealand?
Hi. Well, when I think of my favorite in New Zealand, I think of memories as opposed to what's most beautiful. But I can't think. I mean, I love Nelson, and then you've got the Southern Alps.
The Remarkables, right?
Mhm.
That's the same
Part of
thing.
it, yep.
Yeah. If you haven't seen those, you might have seen them in the Lord of the Rings movies, because that's pretty much all the mountains that they do. Except, well, Mount Doom is Mount Narahoe, which is near Taupo. Right? Taupo? Yeah? I don't think it's
You
near
could say Taupo.
Taupo.
It's okay.
Me-
My mum says Taupo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Shoot, what was I going to say? Well, anyway.
But after I'd met Ben and on that first night in the gutter when
Yeah.
we were talking, I'd said to him that I'd wanted to, when I got home, I was going to buy a van and tour around the South Island. Because, when I finished university and whatnot, I was thinking, I'm just going to go to Europe and go do the OE, which is called overseas experience. And it's just kind of ingrained that you're going to go off and do something,
Yeah.
work in a pub, whatever. I
That
don't know.
used to be a big staple in
Yeah.
the States. Go
Did it?
backpacking
Okay,
Europe for
yeah.
the summer. Yeah, back in like the 80s.
And then I think
90s.
straight after university, I got a job in the country. I was like, okay, well, let me see. Like, people keep going on about New Zealand, so my goal then was to get a little van and tour around. So when I did get back to New Zealand, when I met Ben, I asked him that, and I was like, "You want to join?" And we did, and we did 2 months, and we lived out of it, and it was
Mhm.
great. So
Oh, that's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And that gave him a nice little break from being on boats, probably. Must
Yeah.
have
Oh,
enjoyed
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and you've got to kind of see New Zealand by land. I mean, there's a lot of
Oh,
sailing, but
definitely. You
it's,
have to.
yeah.
Well,
You can
but
be, I describe it like people ask me about it. I'm like, well, the beauty in New Zealand is it's so close together. You've got so much diversity in such a small area. You could be, hiking, in the mountains. Well, then 2 hours drive, you could be like surfing with penguins. So
yeah,
I
well,
kind of like that.
that was how I always described it too. You could essentially, if you had a fast enough car, you could go climb a glacier, chill out on a beach, see a
Yeah,
rainforest, and then,
yeah.
go skiing
So I
all in
think,
one
and
day.
people seem to really love it because they actually take the time to, when they fly there, it's so far away that they actually
Hmm.
take the time to not just spend 2 weeks. They do go for like 6 weeks.
Oh, you
So
have
yeah,
to, I
yeah, no,
think.
absolutely, but they actually do it there.
The
So
first time I went was only for a month, and it went by like lightning.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I felt like the next time, I think we were there 9 months, but 3 of that was spent just touring around,
mm-hmm,
and that was enough to see. I mean, we basically saw everything all the way
yeah,
down to Stewart Island. We spent 10 days down there,
cool.
so
I would love to go there.
it's a
Yeah,
neat place. Very prehistoric. The giant ferns
mm-hmm.
and the bogs. It's really windy though, but that's the thing. You say that New Zealand's really a great country
If it
to
wasn't
see.
windy, everyone would be there.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's deep in the Southern Ocean. Stewart Island sits at, I think, like 48 degrees south latitude, so it's
Yeah,
getting right up next to the furious 50s, and the weather down there is gnarly.
yeah,
So sailing around sort of the South Island, the North Island's really the more popular cruising ground, right?
mm-hmm, yep,
Like the Bay of
yep,
Islands and all that.
mm-hmm,
It is a pretty cool place. I being able to see the snares and see sort of the outline of Stewart Island when I sailed
mm-hmm,
past was definitely a highlight of that trip for sure.
cool.
The snares were gnarly looking, like
Yeah,
kind of like out of that movie King Kong. You get through the fog and it's just
yeah.
rocks and no people and all that.
I did actually get to spend a few, in the Auckland Islands. I actually worked as like an observer on fishing boats.
Oh,
So we would kind
really?
of go off and we would hide in the Auckland Islands when the weather was bad.
So that's another like 60 miles south of the snares, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, it's deep
Yeah,
down
no, it's
there.
deep. I was thinking deeper, but I can't think
I think
right now.
that's well into the 50. And then if you
Yeah.
go deeper than that, it's Campbell Island because it's all on the Campbell Plateau down
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
I only know that because I've stared at it for so long when I was trying to sail. You can imagine me sitting down here with that chart for 2 months, sitting on the table, slowly making my little 1 inch daily runs. Oh man. Well, and Auckland Island. So one of the cool things I always thought was back in the day of all the clipper ships and stuff, they'd load up all their stuff in the East Indies and everything, and then they'd drop down underneath New Zealand, and they were essentially trying to shoot between the snares and Auckland Island, and that was their gateway to the open Pacific for Cape Horn, and they're
Mm-hmm.
essentially racing because the first person got back get a better price on all the goods that they had and
Yeah.
all that. So there's this sort of history of the great age of sail down there, and there's some stories of some horrible wrecks on Auckland Island
Yeah.
and stuff. God, I could go into them, but the short one, there was this boat. All these people came from Australia. They were going back to, I believe, the States or England with all the gold that they had mined, and they got becalmed right next to Auckland Island. Ended up the swell sort of carried them in to this sort of big overhang, almost like a cave. It was a tall ship. I mean, this thing's huge. And as they can't get away, and they were going to launch the boats to like row the boat away from the rock walls. It was all too late, and the swell was big enough. Eventually, it picked the boat up, and the mast hit the top of the rocks, splintered. The whole thing sinks, and only I don't know how many of them survived, but they were able to go around and they lived on a beach on the other side of Auckland Island. This all happened probably in the 1800s, but
Wow.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I want to go diving, try and find some of that gold. Okay, so yeah, we're already, God, time's already just
How
eating
long
away.
is your podcasts?
Well, it can be as long as I want, really.
Uh-huh.
But I also I know that my brain will start to fail pretty quickly. I mean, it already probably has. It's been a long, long couple of days. I'm so glad tomorrow's Friday. But I mean, the amount of and I'll do like a little intro for this podcast that gives some credentials so people know what they're getting into. But your trip across the Indian Ocean is just it's amazing. I mean, you guys have done some real deal serious ocean crossing sailing in far off remote places and stopped in islands that I've only dreamt about and read about. Was that, I mean, that whole experience crossing from Australia to South Africa, how long were you guys out
I
there?
think it was short, maybe like 2 months, 2.5 months.
Oh,
You got to kind of get across quick, so
because there's only
yeah.
a little window because
Mhm.
they have the monsoon season
Yeah.
and it does get pretty crazy even up there because you're just north of the equator when you're stopping in. There's Christmas Island's the first one,
Yep.
right? You
Mhm.
come to, and then it's Cocos and Keeling Island,
Mhm.
and then there's other islands, and then there's the big like Diego Garcia and Ramirez Island and all that before you get to Madagascar and then Africa
Yeah,
proper.
we pretty much stayed like south. I mean, we didn't go to Madagascar or Seychelles or anything.
Yeah, how come you didn't go to Madagascar?
Um,
Mm,
timing.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Just had to get out of there.
our friend was doing a circumnavigation and kind of did it pretty fast. Well, not like you, but like, it took 3 years, 2.5, I don't know. But you got to kind of keep moving. So,
Well, that is, that's one of those things you have to stay with the seasons and I mean, I don't know I can't remember what the storm season is in the Indian Ocean. I had to pass right through it because I got clipped by a cyclone. But the Southern Ocean's, the Southern Ocean. So I want to say that would have been December. I think their storm season is like December to March,
yeah, I
maybe.
think we were September, October.
Okay, yeah.
I could be wrong, but yeah.
Did you have any pretty bad weather as you made your way down to Cape Town?
Not particularly. I would say just wind all the time and big seas.
Yeah, well, the Agulhas, or not the Agulhas, but yeah, it's the Agulhas
Mhm.
current.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we did have to watch, that's when we got to South Africa, Richards Bay, then we kind of came into the Agulhas Current.
Yeah. Now, were you primarily doing sort of overnight
I
hops or a
think we
couple of
did
nights?
a night or two. I'm just trying to think. I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, and I don't mean to be
No,
pressing
that's
you,
okay.
but it really is. I would love to eventually one day be able to
Yeah.
do something like
Yeah.
this.
Reunion was our favorite.
Oh,
Reunion
really?
Island. Yeah, we went like 4-day hike, I think, inside interior, and they've got the kind of the caldera, the volcano thing. You kind of hike it, like hike up to or drive up to the rim, and then you hike down into it. Yeah, it's cool. It's
Ooh. And
pretty
is that
impressive.
French owned?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. So checking in and out pretty easy peasy. Not too bad.
I think so. Gosh, I can't remember.
Hmm. And you were there for just a little few days and then busted
Probably
right
like
out.
at least a week there. But yeah, we had to kind of keep moving.
And that's all. Is that atolls like reminiscent of maybe Tahiti and all that? Is Tonga atolls or is it little islands?
Um,
Boy, I got a lot of questions.
you do.
I'm sorry. I'm fascinated by it. I really am.
Well, I like
And
with Tonga, they have that big trench going from New Zealand
the
to,
Tonga Trench,
yeah,
yeah.
I like that.
I
It's got
y-
like little snakes that go that go through the trench as well as the whales.
oh really?
Yeah,
Well, I didn't know that. I wonder
yeah,
if that's where the giant squid are too. I'll bet.
yeah,
There's a
probably.
lot of stuff down there that we have no idea about. Have you ever seen anything weird down out at sea where you're just like, what? I don't even know what the heck that was.
Well, with my job, I was a fisheries observer, so I'd go out on fishing boats for like a month or two at a time,
Hmm.
and then that would be deep sea trawling mostly, so they'd pull up a bunch of stuff. So that's where I kind of saw some cool things, specimens and whatnot.
Yeah, did you ever see any orange roughy? You remember those
No,
fish?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I like Orange Ruffy, but they closed that. I think it's reopened, but
Yeah,
I
well, it
can't
was, I mean, it's kind of a sad
Yeah,
story about it, but it's, you probably actually know more about it than I do, didn't it? It
it
was,
it brings childhood memories. Like I think I ate it, but then I know it closed down, so I don't know.
yeah, well, essentially they discovered these deep sea sort of fish around New Zealand called orange roughy.
Hmm.
And I don't know when this was. I think it was like in the
Oh
90s.
yeah.
It was very recent. And so they were really good, and so they caught them, and they
Hmm.
caught as many of them as they could, not knowing that each one of those fish they were catching were like 100 years old.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the stockpile just
Yeah.
depleted down to nothing. So there was like this little chunk in human history where orange roughy were like everywhere, and they were delicious fish. And yeah, they must have closed it down because there probably were barely any left. But be interesting to find out if they've sort of come back at all. Hmm. I'll have to Google that later.
Me too.
One day when this podcast is really popular, I'll have like a person who does that.
Yeah. There we go.
It'll be pretty cool. I'll be very excited. Gosh, where were we? Oh yeah. Immediately when I said Christmas Island, you said the crabs.
Yes.
Do
Oh,
explain.
okay. Well, they have the coconut crabs, the big giant ones.
Oh, with the giant,
Yeah.
they're real asymmetrical looking, like they're
Yeah.
not.
Like giant, like land crabs.
Yeah.
And what's cool about Christmas Island is that they're so protected there that there's it's a little kind of little island, little hick town, whatever, and they
Yeah.
have like a blackboard, and there's like they tally the coconut crabs that are killed by road on
Oh,
like
really?
26 this month, like they
Oh,
and
geez.
so on the road, like the tarmac, they like draw a circle around with the death of the
Oh,
coconut
no.
crab.
I,
And then you've got all the other crabs. I don't know what the crab is, the whole like the small ones that descend upon the
oh,
land.
those little red
And they
ones.
have like they build the bridges above the roads that they kind of climb up and so they don't go onto the road.
Those
That
that,
David Attenborough, he did
yeah,
the whole,
I've seen
yeah.
footage of
So
that.
we weren't there for that season, but that would be cool.
That would be pretty neat.
Yeah.
Well, actually, when I see like even that, like crabs or let's say like ants, I see them in the millions. Creeps me out. Not
Yeah.
gonna lie.
No,
I'm kind of like, ah.
yeah, I can see that.
Well, what if for whatever reason
You gotta have gumboots
something?
on, I think.
Oh yeah, you kidding me? So in the British Virgin Islands, there's a lot of salt flat areas where it's sort of like a lagoon a long time ago, got landlocked, and now it's sort of brackish water. Anyway, when they dry out, you get all these little crabs, and they're only about an inch long or half an inch,
Hmm.
centimeter, let's say, for those of us in the New Zealand area. There's a lot of Kiwis that listen to this podcast,
Oh,
by the way.
cool.
Yeah, they work at a company that
Sorry about my bad facts.
Oh, geez, yeah. The guys out at Sky, my older brother works out at this company in New Mexico, and
Oh, yeah,
they
you were
build the
saying.
airships.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But there's a lot of Kiwis out there. So in any event, shout out to them. There's these little crabs, and you can go out there, and there's millions of them. And they're all scooting around. They have one little white claw and then like miniature nothing claw. So they kind of look weird.
Yeah.
But if you walk out into this thing, they part, like the sea is parting. And then all of a sudden you kind of look around and you're surrounded and they're all around and they come right in. They can't
I
really
can see
bite
that.
you per se,
Yeah,
but
no.
there's just this instinctual, and maybe it's just from horror movies that you see when you're a kid of like all the ants or something coming in and it just devours you. But
Hmm.
I like to keep the numbers even. I like to have an even fight on my hands.
Okay.
Something you didn't know about me.
There we go.
Oh man. Keeling and Cocos Island. Gorgeous,
Yes. Yes.
stunning.
Cocos Killing. Direction Island. Oh God. Don't quote me on that. That one was really nice. Yeah.
Like ridiculous.
Yeah. The
Do you-
blues really blue.
And it's just beach, 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 right? Isn't it? It's
Yep.
because there's this one I don't know the history fully on, and I can't remember if it is those, but
They don't have coconut crabs because they ate them all.
Yeah, right. Oh, I don't doubt that. Well, and that's something that these little island communities that are so
Mhm.
isolated. I mean, take Easter Island for instance. I
Mhm.
mean, they cut down all the lumber and all the trees and everything. And even in the South Atlantic, St. Helena,
Mhm.
that used to have redwoods on it.
Wow.
Yeah, and they cut them all down to tan goat hides. The East India Trading Company, and basically destroyed the microclimate there, and now
Yeah, I
it's
bet.
essentially a barren desert
Yeah.
sort of thing. St. Helena has one of the most tragic, sad histories I think I've ever read.
I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, I wish I knew the book that I read about it. I would throw it out there. But it's like take the most perfect little plush thing, and with this crazy history, there's a guy who was like stuck there for years by himself. I don't know. What was your sort of longest passage in the Indian then?
I think it was 13 days from Cocos Keeling to Rodrigues.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
That's not too
And it
bad.
was
That's
like
good
a,
2 weeks.
I think like a 11 and then a 13 and then a few days here and there.
Yeah.
And then maybe an 8-day from Reunion under Madagascar to Richards Bay, South Africa.
Okay. And what type of boat were you guys on for that?
We were on a Scepter 42, 43. I think it's Canadian built boat. Blue
Monohull?
water. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Personally, I was just kind of crew member number 3 or 4, so there was ignorance played on my part, and um, Ben is who they really wanted.
Oh, right. So it's kind of like a
Y-
package deal sort of
Kind of.
thing. Well, but that's, there's a whole lot that I think that goes into a valuable person aboard,
Yeah,
a valuable crew member. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's all about skill at all. I
yeah,
mean, you can have the most skillful sailor on your boat, but if he or she is just a
yeah,
real pill, as my grandmother would say, it's miserable, and it can make the boat just absolutely
yeah,
miserable too.
absolutely. Yeah, I don't know how people find crew, find captains. That's got to be an ordeal.
Oh, it's tough, especially for an offshore passage, because if you think about it,
Yeah, you're screwed.
you are
Yeah.
you're out there, and
Mm-hmm.
people get sort of weird, so to speak, and winch handles are flying around, smacking people in the head, and the overwhelming thought of, and I don't know if you could get away with it in this day and age so much, but back in the day, even as early as the 80s, you pull into port and be like, yeah, dude fell overboard halfway to Hawaii. Could probably get away with it.
Well,
Nowadays, I don't
yeah,
know. I feel like there's too much
absolutely.
evidence around.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's why you
keep
sail
that in
alone.
mind next time you and Ben are having a little
There we go.
scuff. Oh man. So off to Bermuda and then down to the Caribbean and just trying to live the cruiser's lifestyle for a while.
Yes, I mean, we were in Key West for 5 years.
Mhm.
So, once we purchased the boat, we spent 6 months on her in the yard and then sailed her down to Florida. And then we kind of created a little life down there and needed to, work and do boat projects. And so that somehow 5 years went by. We did love it there, but it was kind of time to go. And
Yeah.
so now we're going to live the life that we've been set out to do.
Very
Yeah,
cool. Oh
so
my gosh. And
yeah.
you obviously have like a little bit of a nest egg to be able to sort of get you started, but the plan
Mhm.
is to do some work down in the
Yeah,
Caribbean off and on.
we're not opposed to, well, I mean, we'll need to, but I think when you find work and well, we don't know the culture down in the Caribbean in terms of, the Western world kind of coming in and make it work and whatnot. But yeah, I think you can be with the local people and like we were in Key West. We loved it there. We had a community, and I think that's kind of how we would like to travel, is kind of merge ourselves for 3 months, 6 months, and then move on. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, then there's always, I'd love a little, acre or two somewhere in the woods somewhere. So
I
there's
hear
that
you
life
on
too.
that. Well, when you get to Dominica,
Uh-huh.
keep an eye out for that because that has a lot of beautiful wooded,
Yeah.
mountainous regions.
Yeah.
And the cool part about Dominica, one is that it's like if you like hiking and things like
Mhm.
that, it's epic.
Yeah.
it's not. It's one of the sort of really secret gems in the Caribbean
Okay.
because it doesn't have the big sandy beaches and the super protected harbors and anything
Yeah.
like that. It doesn't. I don't even know if it has any marinas per se. I'm always anchored when I'm there, and if the North Swell rolls in, you're rolling with
Yeah.
it. So it's kept development
Yeah.
down,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's relatively unspoiled.
Cool.
So definitely have to look out for that. But
Yeah, we
I
will.
I think one of the cool things, the mountains are so big there, and the water's super fresh. You can drink right out of the rivers, and but once you get up to a certain altitude, it's no longer like 80 degrees. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
72, and you're sort of like, whoo.
Yeah. The fun thing is we've barely looked into the Caribbean.
You
However
can
you
say
say
it
it.
both ways,
Okay.
doesn't matter.
So we just don't know, and
Yeah,
it's
you
more
know the
about
whole
just
thing.
kind of using our boat and kind of exploring, and
Right,
don't
right.
really have too many qualms about what we're gonna run into or not. So it's kind of exciting.
Well, and with the
Like
boat,
Maine, we came here and absolutely loved it. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I think something. So I think it's very common in the sailing world these days. People get a boat, they have this idea, and then they never leave, and they never do it
Mm-hmm.
because there is that anxiety and that feeling, and I
Yeah.
get it myself as well. Of, whew, what's it gonna be like? Like if I sail from here down to Grenada, it could be a lot
Yeah.
of trials and tribulations trying to
Uh-huh.
get in there. I don't know what's gonna happen, but the reality of it is you could sit there and try and plan every little last thing out, or you can just go for it and see what happens. I've always said that, no matter what, you're going to rise to the occasion and it's going to be an experience. So you might as well just go for it.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because
And
you actually
we
do
were
that.
comfortable in Key West. I mean, we were doing good, and yeah, we loved it there. But we just never thought of it as our forever spot. So it
Oh,
was
so
time
you're
to
still
leave.
searching for that kind of.
Yeah, eventually, and it might be New
Sick.
Zealand. We'll probably get there, and
Oh,
but we want
really?
to have 5 years or so before we get there. I don't know.
Yeah,
Throw out a
yeah.
number. I
That's
don't want to get
way
there
off.
too soon because it's like, oh, okay, I don't want to do the Indian Ocean again.
Yeah, right. Oh, geez. Well, you could always do the nice part with New Zealand from the Caribbean. You just go through the Panama Canal,
Well, yes.
or you rip down and go through the Straits of Magellan. Then you could go and see Juan Fernandez Island. You could see I think that's where Selkirk. There's been that's where a lot of my brain's not working. The castaways that end up on these islands for 20 years end up in these weird little communities. Pitcairn Island, where the mutiny of the Bounty, those guys. Pitcairn. I really want to. One of the islands I've always wanted to see is Henderson Island.
Never
So
heard
it's
of it.
part of the Pitcairn group. So
Okay.
there's Pitcairn, there's Ducey, and there's Henderson
You
Island.
just picked the most remote spots.
Well,
Cocos Killing.
part of it comes from just
Snares.
my reading. When I read these
Yeah.
books, Cocos and Christmas Island and stuff, that really was, I want to say it was Joshua Slocum's book, Sailing Alone Around the World. He gives a little brief history on some of that, so that was pretty cool. But the ones down in the Pitcairn
You like the
group,
romance of it, don't you?
yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. I love picture. This is my bunk,
What about, have you read
raging
about
sea out
Penobscot
there.
Bay?
I'm just down there in my little buck. The what?
What if you're out there in the ocean and you're reading about Penobscot Bay?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would, and
yeah.
I'd probably be like,
Like,
"Oh,
whoa.
I gotta go to Penobscot Bay," and then I'm here and I'm working in a boatyard. But that's the thing. If I could afford to be up here and just sail, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I totally would. But it's very difficult. I think I would be overwhelmed, especially this summer, if the boat was in the water and I was trying to work as well as go out on the weekends and sail and do all this other stuff. Because this summer has been I'm trying
we
to
lived
grind.
in a marina in Key West and barely got out.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes it just feels like,
Yeah. I didn't have cabinetry until the month before we left.
yeah.
I didn't have doorknobs before the week before we left. And this is 5 years in. This is,
Like, Ben, you
Yeah.
promised me doorknobs.
But it's quite good that it didn't happen until like the 5th year because his woodworking developed. So,
Well,
and
and
they
it
are,
looks
yeah.
amazing. I mean,
So,
you look around this, and this is all pretty much generic, but it's also specialized to Westdale, I guess. Most of these boats
yeah,
are full teak everywhere.
yeah.
Very,
Well, that was a
very
part of the
nice.
fun, I think, of we had the resources and opportunities to kind of build the boat because it was quite bare and
Yeah.
utilitarian. So we had a fresh slate, a strong slate, which is what attracted us to it.
Well,
But
and
then everything takes so long. So
yeah, exactly. Well, because I think having seen you guys work on the mast, obviously Ben takes, his work ethic is really good, but he's meticulous. He's not going to cut corners. I mean,
no,
as long as it's going to work and be safe, like I'm good.
yeah.
I'll just
I
throw a little
can't
paint
wait
on
for a
it.
year we can cut corners.
Yeah, as long as it's safe and it works, that's my main concern. What it looks like. Yeah, if I got time, great, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to be fussed about it. It just, for me, it just doesn't. I used to have this perfect example. I used to have these little Boston Whalers, like 13 or 15 footers down in the Caribbean. It's awesome. They were rescue boats. So they have flair and color and stickers down the side, like BUIC Rescue One. And I'd go through and I'd spend all this time and I'd paint them all up, make them just nice. And it looked like Ferraris, like Lamborghinis on the water. They were great. And then, I'd scratch it or somebody'd have to use it for a rescue and it'd get all dinged up. And I'd be all like, "Ugh," disheartened. But then I would be happy again because I realized, okay, now I don't have to worry about it and I don't have to
Yeah.
clean it every day and
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. So I like a
Mhm.
banged up boat. It's good character.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
There we go.
I definitely want to wish you guys luck and good sailing and everything. And it's been awesome. I think I had mentioned being able to do this show on yesterday's show or the day before, just in passing. And I love how the sailing world is this community
Mhm.
of sort of like-minded, but also eccentrics and crazies and all that sort of stuff, but all with just this one little tinge of a commonality between them. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's been awesome to meet you guys.
Yeah. Likewise.
It's very cool.
Yeah. It's funny how at home we feel in a boatyard too. Like, oh, this is like normal. Like,
Yeah, right. Boatyards, marinas, anchorages. Put you in a cubicle in, a New York City high rise, or put me in one of those, I would probably freak out.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It's just not. I don't know. I don't think I could actually handle it.
How to not go to one eventually.
Yeah,
That's the
right.
question.
Exactly. Start a podcast.
Oh.
Or no,
I'd
weren't
be
you talking
terrible.
about doing a blog? Like a writing one?
Yeah, that's just for, you know, my own sake, memory.
Well, you never know though.
Mhm.
It's those things sometimes if you have a talent for writing, it can all of a sudden become something pretty I don't want to say lucrative because I think writing is pretty hard to be lucrative
Yeah.
with. But I know a lot of people write little magazine articles and things like that, and you get your chops by doing this blog that you really are just doing for
Yeah.
yourself, and then you can go from there. Because I'll tell you, I mean, the podcast is very small, but it's been a game changer for sure as far
Cool.
as the
Yeah.
potential of something, my own and everything. So
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you, Jade, for coming on. I do really appreciate it, and I wish you guys the best of luck. And it's cool to have new friends.
Yeah, definitely.